Are you planning to travel to Australia but have several questions regarding the Australian visa? Then do not worry, you have come exactly to the right place. Hello and welcome to Edutrainex. I am Nandini Watts, and today in this video I will be telling you about Australia visa, its requirements, eligibility and much more. So watch this video till the end because I will be answering the queries asked by many of the applicants. So without wasting any time, let's get straight to our topic, that is Australia visa. So the requirements for Australia visa varies depending on whether you are visiting for tourism, business, work, studying or visiting a family member. So it can be done online or you can submit a paper application at a consulate or embassy. So before moving ahead, let me first explain what Australian visa is. So Australian visas are basically permits that allow you to travel to Australia for a limited time, and in contrast to most countries, Australia does not issue passport stamps or labels. So instead your visa privileges are recorded on an online database which is checked by the immigration officer when you arrive in Australia. So the Australian Department of Home Affairs assesses and decides all visa applications. So you can usually stay in Australia for at least 3 months as a tourist or other short-term purposes. So you can obtain a long-term visa for work, study or other purposes from a few months to 5 years depending on your specific needs. So many people ask me that if they need a visa for Australia, then the answer is definitely yes. So the only exception to this rule is New Zealanders. So New Zealanders who are eligible for a visa on arrival. So everyone else has to obtain a visa beforehand. Depending on your nationality, you can obtain an e-visitor visa, an electronic travel authority or a visitor visa for short-term visits. However, those outside of New Zealand must obtain a valid visa if they plan to stay for a long time, such as to study or work. Now, let me now tell you about, just now I mentioned about e-visa, okay, e-visitor visa. So, the Australian ETA, also known as subclass 601 visa, is an electronic permit allowing the holder to travel to Australia for tourism, a family visit or business purposes. You can apply for an ETA entirely online from your home. So it is much easier and quicker to obtain a visa as it is entirely online and there are barely any document requirements and you will have it within 24 hours. So your ETA application is saved on an online database and is linked to your passport number. So you don't need to take any trip to the Australian embassy and get a stamp. Here's a list of European countries whose citizens are eligible to get the e-visitor visa for Australia. So I hope there was enough introduction about Australia visa. Now the next thing is how to get it. So as I already said that the Australian visas can be obtained online or through an Australian embassy or consulate depending on your nationality. That is, you apply for the visitor visa through the Australian Department of Home Affairs online service. Now then comes the question that when to apply for the visa. So I must say that you should apply for an Australian visa based on the visa type you want. Okay, so like for a tourist visa you should apply at least a month in advance, but you might consider applying even earlier. So for an e-visitor visa or ETA up to a week before your trip, generally if you are applying for a long-term visa such as work visa, you should get it started right away because it can take months to a year to get it. So you must have heard that there are different types of Australian visas like visitor visas, study and training visas, parent visas, family visas, partner visas and many others. So when you apply for an Australian visa, make sure to keep in mind that you must have an Australian health insurance policy if you are a long-term visa holder. Okay, so the Australian government strongly recommends that the visitors get health insurance even if it isn't mandatory for visitor visas. So many of you ask about Australian visa extension. Now let me tell you that applicants who are already in Australia and wish to extend their stay can apply for a new visa 2 weeks before the current one expires, provided their current visa does not state no further stay. So when you enter with a tourist visa which states no further stay, you cannot extend or apply for a new visa unless you have extraordinary circumstances. So you will receive a bridging visa after applying for another type of visa. Now a bridging visa allows you to remain in Australia until the immigration authority approves your visa application. So after your visa expires, you cannot stay in Australia unless you have applied for a different type of visa. Overstaying by even a few days will affect your future visa applications if you are reported to immigration. So those who overstay their visa for more than 28 days may get an interview by immigration authorities on their way out, and they might even be banned from traveling for 3 years. However, there are exceptions if you have a valid reason for overstaying. Now, the question comes that do you have any refund for application visa if it is withdrawn? So, when you are applying for Australia visa, keep in mind that you won't get a refund. So, now reimbursement can be allowed only if the applicants or members of the families have passed away, or there is another visa of the same category held by the applicant, and it is only for parent visa applications that an applicant has applied for a different type of Australian parent visa and is waiting for a decision on that application. Now, at the end, I like to say that make sure you don't make mistakes in the application because it might cause a problem for you at the border. So that is all about the Australia visa. I hope this video will prove helpful to you. Still, if you have any doubts or queries regarding the Australian visa, then feel free to ask in the comment section below. Not only this, if you want assistance in applying for the visa, in the description box, we will be happy to help. And in case of any changes that will be done in the visa requirements, it will be updated on the official website of Australian visa. I'll put the official website's link in the description below. Go check it out if you want any new updates regarding it. Thank you.